It's time for another Elsie's Little Pickles, the pickle pod for the people, reminding you to continue the pickle pod protest by putting a pickle on the porch of a MAGA supporter, taking a picture of it, and sending it to us at elsieslittlepickles@gmail.com. Another crazy week. Obviously, we had spoke on the last pod about the Pope passing. This week, we had the funeral. One of the things that I found interesting is that today, I believe it was, the actual final ceremonies happened. The final planting the Pope happened.
Yes, did any of you watch any of the proceedings?
No.
I didn't have a chance to. No, unfortunately, I didn't have a chance to. But the one thing
I wasn't even baptized, so it just doesn't.
It doesn't ring true. It doesn't ring true at all. It burns.
I was unbaptized.
How do you get unbaptized?
The Satanic Temple.
Oh, very
Hell
good.
yeah.
Very good. I have to make my way over there.
Pretty fucking metal.
It's incredible.
That's pretty fucking metal.
We went to last year, the weekend before Halloween, to Salem, to the actual head temple.
Oh, really?
Ooh.
Yeah.
I really want to go to Salem.
It's kitschy, right?
I know it's very touristy because it's like, oh, we had the witch trials. Come look at our witch tour.
Yeah,
and it's Halloween year round, but
it's actually false. The witch trials didn't happen there. They happened in Old Salem, which is about 20 minutes away.
Yeah, but
okay. Well, it was still Salem.
New
not
Salem's a lot closer
Salem.
to the exit of the expressway.
Yeah, basically.
I mean, that would be my thought.
I had wanted to go to Salem for years. Thank you very much.
And that's a new dimension to the podcast.
That's right. That's a little extra for you. The problem with Salem is if you go during October,
Mm-hmm.
you're not going to be able to see anything cool. And it's because every idiot is there. And I'm talking
right.
Just to go into a shop, you have to wait an hour in line outside.
That's ridiculous. Yeah, no, I wouldn't be part of that.
Horribly ridiculous.
So
And
what
we
you're
were
saying
there
is go
during the
November
rains.
1st.
No, probably
Maybe not
August.
November 1st because that's Salem, which is holiday. So I would go
September,
the very beginning of October, like the 1st.
Yeah, late September, early October, probably.
Or September. This year, I'm planning on, instead of going to Salem, to go to Sleepy Hollow, New York.
Ooh, yeah.
And I have plans to, if we can pull this off, go there, and I want to get tattooed in Sleepy Hollow.
Mm-hmm.
And I've already got it all picked up. I'm getting pumpkin faces across my knuckles.
Okay. I was expecting a headless horseman, but
No, it just doesn't fit with my motif.
Well, since we're talking motif.
Exactly. But with Salem, I don't even remember how we got onto the subject of Salem.
We were talking about the Pope.
And then
you said
Salem?
You said you got unbaptized.
Oh, yeah. Unbaptized. Satanic Temple. The statue of Mephistopheles. Oh, that's not Mephistopheles. What is that?
Baphomet.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Is there. I gave it a kiss on the cheek. Because you can sit on it. Yeah. It's fantastic. But they have artwork all over the place. But also pay attention to the wallpaper, because it is not normal wallpaper. It's very beautiful. But it was a lot of fun. And
will
really
they
cool.
unbaptized someone who's never been baptized?
That is a great question.
To make it a double?
Yeah, I'm
really,
double unbaptized.
To really affirm it?
I'm going to purgatory squared.
Well,
purgatory squared. You're just going to be in the lobby of purgatory.
Yeah. So fucking the villages in Florida.
Yeah, that's purgatory squared.
I've seen that too.
God's waiting room.
Let me tell you, I've been there. It's really crazy because everybody is in golf carts.
No, what's really crazy is how many old people have fucking sexually transmitted disease.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Yes.
I mean, that's like the number one.
It was amazing how many places, like stores around there, actually had like Purell.
Oh, I don't doubt it.
Outside, fucking everywhere. Fucking old people.
Yeah. I mean, well, you give guys of that age.
Stop that fucking. You got to break a hip.
You give guys that age a fucking boner pill. It's gonna happen. It's just going to fucking happen. And I think a lot of the old ladies. I think a lot of the
Viagra.
Yeah.
And here's a bottle of lube.
I think.
And by the way, every door has a bowl of Werther's Original in front.
Werther's Original and Wintergreen Lifesavers.
Oh shit. The point of what I was trying to get to was the fact that not to walk away from.
What are you trying to say?
Not to walk away from the fun. Not to walk away from the fun we're having with this, but and to make it political. But it was interesting because two things happened apparently. One, Trump wore a blue suit, not a black suit, and stood out like a fucking sore thumb. I mean, like a sore fucking thumb.
They were.
Yeah, and Obama wore a tan suit.
Yeah, see, but wait a minute. I thought the same thing when I first heard that. Okay,
I understand it's a sign of disrespect at a funeral, let alone the Pope's funeral, to wear anything other than a black suit. But Obama wore a tan suit, and that's still a talking point. I don't care what.
Yeah, I don't care either. No, but you gotta understand this in conjunction, because it wasn't just the fact that he wore the blue suit, which was disrespectful, considering the fact that it is very well known that Pope's funeral you're supposed to wear a black, like, for mourning
garment of some kind. Yeah.
So like every other world leader got the memo, but apparently Trump didn't get that memo, right? So that's first. Second,
I don't own a black suit. Blue complements my orange. I don't want to look like Halloween.
So exactly. So not only did he do that, right? But then on top of it, him and Melania stepped on the carpet. Do you know the significance of that?
No, but I'm guessing it's a faux pas.
So the carpet.
Can I first ask where you're seeing Obama in a tan suit?
He can't. He
not at the funeral. Just
no.
I'm saying like
he was actually
when he was president. He wore a tan suit one time to like a press conference or something.
I was going to say, according to AI, Obama did not attend the funeral.
No. I'm
talking about when he was president.
If all you did was look up Obama in a tan suit, you'll see plenty.
Yeah, and it was like a press conference, and it's still a talking point.
And it only happened once.
Yeah, that's meaningless.
Yeah, it was totally meaningless. And under normal circumstances, I wouldn't give a shit if you wore a blue suit to a funeral. However, when you're in a sea of world leaders all wearing black, and they take the picture, and it's outside, sunlight, you stand out like a sore thumb. He might as well have been wearing blue jeans, right?
Well, he didn't want to wear the black suit just in case he got deported.
So, but then both him and Melania broke the carpet rule. Now the carpet is there, so they put the casket on the carpet, and the carpet is there as like this is holy ground right now. You're not supposed to step on the carpet. They're supposed to. It's part of Catholicism.
The Pope's body and the bishops carrying him, or the cardinals carrying him.
All of it is very, very ceremonial, and it's very important to Catholic tradition. The carpet represents a holy space that is meant to be.
The whole thing made me watching feel so awkward. Like the time that I peed in the public swimming pool,
and it turned blue.
No, but the lifeguard was screaming at me, and it startled me that I almost fell in.
You know, that's a felony, holding a kid's penis like that.
Oh, you both are jackasses. You both are jackasses.
Hey, look, the Catholic Church knows a lot about holding little boy dicks. So
well, there you go. That's true. Absolutely. But the thing that really I found interesting was the fact that the homily, the service was there were many references that were basically directed at Trump policy. So you've got the entire world watching. You got all these world leaders there, and basically from the pulpit, the priest or cardinal or whoever the fuck it was, the acting pope at this point, took Trump.
Pope too.
Yeah, took Trump to task on like border wall. He kept saying things like, "Build bridges, not walls." So when you got,
did you see the?
Well, also Christ says, "Accept your neighbor."
Yeah, exactly.
Did you see the collage of Pope Francis with world leaders?
No.
Yeah, it was. I don't remember who posted it on Facebook, but it was very entertaining. You got to see him laughing with Macron.
And then the sour face. Yeah, and the sour face Biden, he had with Trump.
Trump and Vance.
Oh, I don't doubt that. Because they literally represent everything he's against.
Yeah.
Or was against. All right. Well,
well, again, he looked into JD Vance's eyes and saw hellfire and brimstone, and that's what killed him.
And mascara. And
yeah.
Lots of mascara.
Eyeliner, because JD Vance is an emo queen.
So I think with that, we should go to here's Kiefer with the news.
Well, NATO is on the highest state of readiness after Russia launches that scathing attack on Kiev.
Yeah. So there's a lot of things going wrong for Trump right now, right?
He couldn't convince his buddy to stop.
No. And
or his other buddy to stop. Looking at you,
tweet of Vladimir.
Yeah.
Ah.
He hasn't been able to get Netanyahu nor Putin to really come to the table. And then on top of that, with his tariff trade war bullshit, he doesn't have one deal done yet. China is definitively looking like the winner in this tariff war.
Yep.
But
we're devastated and ruined as a former superpower.
I think so. But here's the good news. I honestly do believe that NATO is not backing down. I believe that you're going to see France. I think you're going to see England. I think you're going to see Poland and Germany all step up to the plate big time on what's going on in Ukraine. And I think that they will probably, hopefully, fill the void of the United States. Because I think what's going to end up happening, I think Trump's going to try to pull out of anything to do with that and be like, they just want to kill each other. It's all they want to do is kill each other. So I'm just going to step back and let them kill each other because they don't want to listen to me to tell them you don't have to kill 5,000 soldiers a day.
As you can see from this Slavic skull, these two dimples represent war fighting.
Exactly.
Well, Russia did mention that the start of World War III will probably start against Poland and wiping Poland off of the world map.
I honestly think that we're already kind of at the early stages of World War III because Pakistan and India, I'm sure we're going to get to it, but Pakistan and India just absolutely kicked off over the Kashmir region. I don't know if either of you saw that.
I didn't see that. No, actually,
basically, Kashmir is a jointly governed zone between India, Pakistan, and China, and they all have a claim over a portion of it, if not all of it. And
I just want my sweater back.
There were apparently, I don't know if this was like a false flag or something like that. There's a lot of indications that it might have been, but it also might not have been. But basically, a bunch of like 20 to 30 very rich Indian people in the Kashmiri region, like vacationing there, were apparently fired upon by the Pakistani military, to which Modi of India said, okay, we're going to cut off our water deal. We're going to halt all passports and travel between Pakistan and India, and we're going to essentially wall off the Kashmiri region.
Well, you got to understand,
and I will remind you that they are both nuclear powers with very itchy palms.
Yeah, not just that, but you got to understand that India is the only one that the United States even has come close to or is in the process of working out some sort of trade deal. So when you look at,
because Modi's a fascist just like Trump.
Well, that's exactly the point I was getting to is that, you know, Modi is just a Indian version of Trump. So when you look at all of the things that are not going well,
however, Modi completely supports NATO.
Well, that is true because Modi understands the importance of NATO, unlike Trump.
Yes.
So one of the things I think that will be interesting is I think he will get the first trade deal with India. I do think that will happen, and it'll probably end up being the template that they try to use for everywhere else, and that won't work.
Anybody else here think that he's going to work out trade deals with all these countries, and then 2028 will roll around, and he will run on, who created these trade deals? They're not.
Yeah.
It wouldn't surprise me. I mean,
much like the North American trade agreement.
Yeah, that he wrote.
Yeah.
But interesting that you bring up 2028 because that was another news story that he has, and I don't know if that was one of the ones you were going to bring up, but he has his Trump 2028 hats going.
Correct.
Yeah, he already started selling Trump 2028 hats.
And the messaging is very confusing because if you listen to that press secretary, what the fuck is her name? I can't think of it right now. Do you know off the top of your head?
Kayleigh McEnany?
No, not McEnany. Huh? Levitt?
Leave it.
Yeah. What's her first name? You know?
Carolyn.
Carolyn. That's it. She basically...
It's a joke, but also by the hats.
That's basically what she said. She goes, President Trump has not communicated that he's running for president in 2028, but the hats are flying off the shelves.
It's a joke, but it's also based in red pilled.
Yep. I refer to her as Blitzkrieg Barbie.
She is something. Yeah. And I tell you what, she's not making any friends in the press. The White House press room absolutely hates her. Absolutely can't
and it's
stand
all Trump friendly. At this point, it's all Trump friendly organizations.
Not all, but
except for like maybe you could argue CNN, but they're Trump friendly at this point. Like
I think they
play defense for him.
No, you still got CNBC
they don't
in there.
Endorse him.
I think you still have some liberal media in there. You know what I mean? But
but again,
how bad is that?
They don't co-sign him, but they're playing defense for him.
Okay, but how bad is that when your press room is stuffed with what should be sympathetic ears, and they're all going, "This bitch is a flat out fucking cunt. We don't like her at all."
Yeah, like that video of her saying any other questions, and then one of the reporters was like, "Yeah, I have a question," and she was like, "No questions? Okay, bye."
Yeah. She just like I'm running this show. She is one of those people that I think while her age is low, in my opinion, for somebody to be a press secretary, I don't think that it's unheard of for somebody 28 years old to be a press secretary. I don't know how old most of them were, but I thought they were old.
I would guess at least mid-30s.
I would think that you'd need to be in your 30s to have the credibility and the fucking maturity to do that. However,
I want to know when one of the press people just like, listen, when you're gone, I'll still be here in this room asking questions.
Well, that's
you're looking for him.
Yeah, I mean, I'm surprised that they haven't done that yet. I think that at some point, even the news allies, are going to turn on him. Getting back to the point of what Trump is doing with the tariffs and what's going wrong in the Trump administration, and the idea that he's going to run for president in 2028. So she poo-pooed that. He has not. He's like, well, we'll see.
We'll see.
Yeah, it could happen. And the tagline for those hats is something to the effect of being able to break all the rules. So it's like they know. So I guess my question to you guys is this: is he going to?
Again, it's a joke, but it's also based in red pill. Then he should do it. That's the messaging that we're getting.
Well, again, this is how did you refer to this before? A soft launch.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what it is. It's a soft launch of this idea. And he plays off like he's joking, and then, well, maybe, and people are saying I should, and then it becomes a reality. So my question to you guys is that a joke that becomes contemplative, then becomes a reality? Or is this him trolling?
I think he's...
Or here's the third option. The third option is he's just trying to drain every fucking nickel out of his supporters.
So I think it's two things. I think, well, I guess maybe three if you want to. But so I think it's publicly he's trolling. Behind closed doors, he's trying to figure out how he can do it. And simultaneously, he's trying to get every nickel and dime out of his supporters he possibly can.
I've never seen
out of the supporters and out of the government.
Yeah, I've never seen a motherfucker who was so willing to put his name on every goddamn thing that ever existed. Like
one of the most pathetic things that I'd ever seen was Trump steaks. Do you remember that?
I do.
Yeah.
And what were they? They were steaks purchased. They still had the sticker from Walmart underneath the Trump steak sticker.
I didn't know that, but that's funny as hell.
It's not a joke. That's what happened.
He had Trump wine. He had Trump vodka. He didn't even drink.
For a person that doesn't drink is rich.
Yeah. Like, how do you even know if this shit's any good? You didn't try it.
He doesn't care.
Exactly. He doesn't care.
No.
So that's why I asked the question. What is the reality of this plan of his?
Trump University.
Yeah.
One of the key things that people went to Trump University was to meet him at the end when you graduated. And what was it? He wasn't there. He had a cardboard cutout that people could take the picture next to.
Unbelievable.
He's literally just a grifter. He always has been.
But see, if he gets the deal with India, he'll at least look like he's making progress, because India is a big fucking country, right? And
it's also a very poor country.
It is.
That is. Let's be honest, we don't really import a ton from.
Oh, we don't. I don't think we do really anything except for butter chicken.
I have a family member who lives in a Trump estate.
Ew.
Last Easter, he had sent out a group text, a group family picture, celebrating that he's at breakfast with Trump, big get together of people, and that he was excited Trump is there serving breakfast to everybody. He wasn't. He was at Mar-a-Lago.
Of course he was.
But it was the fact that they actually believed that he was going to be there. And still tried to pass it off like he was there.
And more importantly, probably paid a pretty penny to be at that breakfast.
I'm sure.
Yeah, so I can't imagine that was. I can't imagine that was included in rent. Like,
right. So, anyways, all right, we've gone off the choo-choo train or tracks. Back to news.
So, next story is, Ardent Proud Boy leader says he voted for retaliation as GOP senator reveals fear under Trump. What was actually said was Enrico Terrio, who probably should be deported, sent out on Twix, and I quote, "I voted for retaliation and retribution because of 4 years of lawlessness. Who, anyone else?" And when asked about it to Alaska's Republican Senator Lisa Murkowski, who, when questioned at a tribal leadership conference, she admitted that sometimes and oftentimes very anxious to speak out because of fear and counter accusations, saying, quote, "We're all afraid."
Yeah. And no, look, Lisa Murkowski on her best day looks like a scared cat.
Yes.
However, if you saw that actual interview, she actually looked very scared. She looked terrified. Yes. So I'm not, when I say that on her best day, she looks like a scared cat, she just has that look. You know what I mean? I don't know if it's the eyes or what, but she just has always this either surprised or startled. Eyes. Well, it's surprised or startled, right? Like just in general. Yeah. One of the people that just have big eye, that fucking look, like
no shame in looking like that, because I had a teacher in public school that literally looked like a bird.
Yeah. And I'm not picking on her for that. I'm pointing it out only because it's difficult to tell with that particular person what the reality is based off the facial expression. So I'm not picking on her because she can't help her face. You know what I mean? But
it's your face.
But if you didn't know any different, and you'd see her like in that, and then you see her later in pictures, You go, well, apparently this bitch is always scared. No, she just looks like that. That's just her look. But what the tone of her remark actually betrayed how afraid she is for her own safety, I think. I think she knows that here she is part of that party, and if she doesn't get in line, she's going to be one of the first that are attacked. And I would not wish that on anyone. I'm not encouraging that in any way, shape, or form, but you could see the fear. You could hear the fear. You couldn't really see it because she always looks that way, but you could hear the fear. And I think that a lot of I think especially after Shapiro in Pennsylvania had his place firebombed and they attempted to burn the fucking governor's mansion down. I think it's all these little things. Remember, I have said this for a very long time.
Did they ever catch those people?
I don't know, actually. I believe so, but I'm not positive on that. But I've said this to both of you for many, many years. It's the little stories that add up that become the bigger picture.
Yep.
You know, and you have to look at the little story like Lisa Murkowski saying what she said about being afraid and accept the fact that it was true and accept the fact that it was sincere to realize what position they're in. Now, Murkowski, she has, voted against the party many, many times. She's been in the majority and been with Democrats many, many times. So she does have a lot of reasons to be afraid when you're talking about Enrique saying that he wants, retribution. I don't think that it's unreasonable for her to be afraid. I don't think it's unreasonable for any of these people to be afraid nowadays. But the thing that I think people should realize is it should be the Republicans that are afraid. It should be Mike Johnson that's afraid. It should be, Senator
The majority
Kennedy.
is not with them.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
At this point, the majority is not with them.
And that's why they should be afraid, whether it's losing their seat or whether it's the fear of political violence. And I hope not, because I'm absolutely against political violence, but I can see when you have a guy like Enrique speaking like he did openly and publicly in front of news outlets, saying what he said, that's kind of an opening salvo for what's yet to come, don't you think?
Yeah, absolutely. And that kind of reminds me, I don't know if Keith, you have this this story pulled up, but a couple days ago, I got a notification talking about freshman Senator Alyssa Slotkin from Michigan.
I saw that story, but I didn't get a chance to read it.
Basically, it was her saying, "Yeah, the Democrats are too woke and gay." That's my assessment. Basically, she's just confirming that she's a never Trumper neocon. Like that's basically what it was.
Well, I think that with Slotkin, what she's trying to do is she's trying to walk the razor's edge more than anything else. She wants. She's a Democrat, but she's trying to figure out how to bridge that gap.
I don't think she's a Democrat. I think she's literally just a neocon that thinks that women should have the right to choose. And that's the only thing that pushes her to be a Democrat.
I can see where you would come up with that idea, and you're not alone in that. However, I disagree with that assessment. I think that she is a Democratic centrist who is trying to reach across the aisle with constituency, because in her area, right?
I get it. Michigan is a very purple state, and she comes from Holly. She's from Holly, right? Which is totally red.
Exactly.
So I get it. Like, she's trying to bridge that gap, but as a Democrat coming out and saying, "Yeah, we just need to stop with the woke gay shit," like, okay, fucking.
All right. Well, wait a minute. All right. So this is where I'm going to give you a little bit of pushback. Okay. Bill Maher went and had dinner with Trump at the White House. 12 days, I think it was after that, he went back on his show and reported on what happened. And his reporting
he basically just said, "I was wooed by Trump." Like, without saying that, that's what he said.
Okay, but that's not what I got out of it.
That's what I got out of it.
See that, and that's what I'm saying is it's the filter that we all have. And look,
I think Maher's point was that everyone's filter is going to hear what they want to hear.
Well, that was part of it, but the other part of it, and this is the thing that I think he said that was the most authentic and true and applicable to everyone. We have been in an 8, you could probably say 16-year cycle, okay, of tribalistic increasing, or in tribalistic views increasing. And what has come of that? Now, you may not remember, Colton, but there was a time where you could have a very, very Republican neighbor. You'd still invite them over for the barbecue, and everyone would have a great time.
Here's my point, though. The reason why that's bullshit at this point is because, as much as I might not want to get political, the Republican will. And as much as the Republican might not want to get political, maybe I will. And on top of that, we don't have a mutually agreed upon set of core axioms. That's the problem. And they don't believe in human rights the way that I do. They don't believe in.
But how do you bridge that gap unless you're willing to have the conversation with them?
But how do you convince someone to?
That's the problem, is both sides are trying to convince the other side instead of just listening to what they're saying. Because when you listen to what somebody else says, especially when it's somebody that you disagree with on fundamental things, you will find that they might come around to this point of view. So rather than just attacking the differences, and this is where I'm going with Bill Maher on this, he was like, and this was my interpretation, I'm done attacking the differences. I'm looking for the similarities because I can build on the similarities and we can come together eventually. We may not agree on everything, but we might be able to not fucking hate each other.
Hold on. So if that's what you got out of it, okay. But I disagree in the sense that, one, Bill Maher he has been on a trajectory of rightward movement, and basically his whole show for the past 5 years at least has been attacking the left.
That is so not true. There's a difference. You have to be able. I got to speak up on this one. I'm sorry. If you're not willing to call out the bullshit in your own party, what gives you? I'm
not saying call him out.
What gives you? Wait a minute.
He's only been attacking the left.
Okay, but wait a minute. I disagree because I watch Bill Maher very religiously, and I'm going to push back on that. If you only agree with those who agree with you and only disagree with those who disagree with you, how do you ever get to a point where we were? Which was a pretty good fucking point.
There is no where we were anymore. That's over. We're not getting back to that. That's just not happening.
So ultimately, the argument then becomes one side has to win. And then the question becomes, at what cost?
And the thing with that, and I agree with you, the vast majority of Americans believe in the basic principles of the Constitution, right? Mm-hmm. Liberal, Democrat, conservative, Republican, doesn't fucking matter. The vast majority agree on the principles of the Constitution. The vast majority agree that the rich are fucking us, right? Mm-hmm. The vast majority agree that we need healthcare, we need education, we need so on and so forth.
We need childcare. We need a lot of things.
The vast majority agree on that. But you have a very loud minority holding that up. And those very loud minority have a majority in our government. That's the problem.
Again, I'm not going to give pushback on that. But what I'm saying is...
And shooting across the bow at people who agree with you on many things, which is what Bill Maher does in my perspective. He shoots across the bow on people that agree with him on many things. Maybe not everything, but many things.
But shouldn't you be able to call out bullshit when you see bullshit? Even if it means
bullshit.
Even if it is in your own party. And I'll go a step further with this, okay?
But is it bullshit?
Let me ask you a question.
Maher, as he is very frustrated with the Democratic Party for not being as loud as the Republicans.
As he should be. I agree with him on that. But he's attacking the radical left, as he likes to call it, which America does not have a radical left. Let's be real here.
I consider myself radically left.
not in any electable sense.
I agree with you.
Also radical left, but not in any electable sense.
Well,
I agree with him that the Democrats suck ass and are pussies. Okay. But when you're using that as a justification to say, oh, but maybe we should hear Trump out after fucking 8 years of him saying he's going to destroy the country.
That's not what he was saying, though. That's not what he was saying.
That's maybe not in this particular clip that you're talking about, where he's talking about his visit to the Trump White House.
All right, so
but in the past 6 years, that's all I've heard out of him.
Okay, I disagree with you on that. However, what I would say is this: name a war that was won with a military that ended because
literally none.
Exactly. What does it end with? Diplomacy.
Yeah.
Okay. Who do you talk to when you're a diplomat trying to put an end to a war? Your fucking enemy. End of story. The only way that you can sit there all day long in his position, and even in Larry David's response to him. Okay.
Which was a very good response, in my opinion.
I disagree. I loved Larry David, but I disagree on this. Okay. And the reason I say that is, if you're not able to have the conversations, if you can't even be in the same room with the person that is the creator of the problem, how are you ever going to start a dialogue that gets you to a point where you can even make assertions that you might be able to change that person's mind?
Hold on, let me put a little pushback on that, okay? So let's say you and I are sitting down and having a conversation, and you don't think that Mexicans and South Americans should be allowed into the country because you think that they're criminals, you think that they're rapists, you think that they're murderers. I don't think that they are inherently any of those things. In fact,
don't either.
I have data to show you that says otherwise, because immigrants are disproportionately less likely to commit any kind of violent.
Okay, now
crime.
let's say
and you say, I don't believe your data. Okay, then we can't really fucking have a conversation, can we?
Right. You're absolutely right, but that's not how this particular event went. Okay, and that's my point. Is what he said was, he wasn't the fucking lunatic that I was expecting. So what happens when you go in expecting Mao, Hitler, Stalin, Genghis Khan?
We talked about this last time. We talked about this on the last podcast. He's a charming guy.
No, I'm agreeing with you on that. But here, and I agree that he is charming and can be charming. But you have to start somewhere. And I think that what Bill Maher did was smart in this sense, if no other sense. And it was probably very selfish of him because he's a national touring comedian. So he knows that 50% of the audience or 50% of the population is probably not going to want to come to his show because they know that he's liberal or they think he's liberal. And then he's got another, let's say, 10%.
At best, a radical centrist.
Let's say another 10% of the population that has a view of him as you do, and you're not interested in seeing him perform. Is this in his self-interest? I'm sure it is in many ways, because he's able to break down that little barrier and get a little bit more of the Republicans to think about coming out to his show, and a little bit more of the people that are liberal that don't think he's liberal enough to come out to his show. So I'm sure there was some self-interest in this, okay?
I mean, however, unquestionably.
However, he made a really good point. He said, I don't want to walk around hating half the fucking country. I can't find a really good argument against that.
As a radical leftist, which Bill Maher claims to completely disagree with, I wouldn't say hate, because, obviously.
Okay, but if you're not even willing...
thing is being radically accepting of everyone on all sides, even though there's one side that says human rights are real and the other side says we should kill half the population.
And if you only talk with people who you know are going to agree with you, you're never going to know when you have a bad idea.
It's just an echo chamber.
That's all it is.
And I'm not saying that it's not. I'm not saying that I can't have a conversation with someone that's MAGA, but at a certain point, you hit an axiomatic disagreement that cannot be mended, because I agree
that doesn't mean you shouldn't have the conversation. Okay? Because even if only a little bit of what you say gets through to the other side and a little bit of what the other side says gets through to you, at least that brings you one step closer to the middle on each side. All right. Now, the other thing that he said, and this is where you're going to be happy because I'm going to go against Bill Maher.
Good.
Is this...
As everyone should.
Is this argument about, which Larry David brought up, the comparison of Hitler. Now, Larry David did it comparing basically Bill Maher to going and visiting Hitler.
Basically rewrote Bill Maher's diatribe about meeting Trump as if he was going to meet Hitler and Goebbels and Himmler.
Right. Now,
which was a very apt comparison, in my opinion.
I agree. It was a very apt comparison, but there's been pushback by, independents and centrists, and I don't commit to any party or any belief system, saying that was wrong. I don't know that it was wrong. I just wonder this. This is one thing I wonder, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Hitler is always the go-to, ever since Hitler existed, right? I don't know who they compared, who the
Napoleon.
All right, and then you go before that, whoever, and then you go before that, whoever, and I'm sure you get, at some point, Genghis Khan was the one that they all said, and then before that, at some point, it was a king or a mad king or whatever, right? Larry David's diatribe, and I was listening to Schmuckonish on this, and I agree with him on this. If you pull Hitler out of it and put any other horrible person, does it have the same kick? No. So the Hitler reference does all the heavy lifting in that comparison. Okay.
I mean, it could have been Mussolini, it could have been Franco, but
it wouldn't have had the same kick. It wouldn't.
The reason it wouldn't have had the same kick is, I think, because of the expansionist element of Trumpism, right? So Trumpism, MAGA, at this point in their evolution, are looking at expansion, whether that's Panama, whether that's parts of Mexico, whether that's Greenland, so on and so forth.
Oh, I agree with you. And that's why I think
Canada.
He's giving. This is exactly the reason why he's giving Putin the option where his only give is going to be not to take over all of Ukraine, but he's still going to get Crimea and in some other large swaths.
He's basically going to get like a fifth of Ukraine.
Well, yeah, and what he's doing by doing that is setting up the precedent for him to do that himself, whether it be Canada, Mexico, Greenland, or whatever. All right, now,
which is why I think it was an apt comparison for Larry David to compare Bill Maher's meeting Trump to him meeting Hitler and Himmler and Goebbels because of the expansionist element.
So while I think that, yes, Larry David made a very, very eloquent argument, my argument against it is, could you have made the same powerful statement using any other nasty motherfucker that's ever existed aside from Hitler? And I don't think he could have, and I don't think it would have had as much weight. All right, now, we've had George W. Bush get compared to Hitler. We've had Barack Obama get compared to Hitler. We've had Donald Trump get compared to Hitler. We've had Joe Biden get compared to Hitler. And now we've had Trump getting compared to Hitler.
Which, on my part, I will point out, Biden, Obama, Bush, even Reagan, Bush Sr., any other Hitler comparison does not really fully...
It doesn't stand up.
There's elements, but it doesn't stand up.
And you're getting you're getting exactly to my point. I'll give you the perfect Trump comparison to Hitler. And that's this $5,000 to any woman who has a baby. So the comparison to Hitler, while often overused, unfortunately, you can draw lines to Trump policy.
Apt in this situation.
It is apt in this situation. I think it has been overused, and overused again.
But in these material conditions, it makes sense.
So just going with the $5,000 for having a baby.
Yeah, which is not even close to like a reasonable amount. Like
when you were born 24 years ago, it was $250,000 to get you to age 18.
Yeah.
Now I got to imagine it's closer to about $400,000 to get a kid to the age of 18.
If not $500,000 or more.
It could be. You're very right. It could be.
Not to change the subject, but I wanted to point this out with the previous subject. One Chris Mowry tweeted out on Twix, and I quote, Trump's statement after arresting the Wisconsin judge was, I expect the legal profession to understand that the nation is not here for them, but they are here for the nation. From now on, I shall intervene in these cases and remove from office those judges who evidently do not understand the demand of the hour.
Another Hitler comparison.
Mm-hmm. I'm sorry, I lied. That was actually Adolf Hitler in 1942.
Yep, there we go. There we go.
And honestly, it could have been Pam Bondi on Fox News a couple of days ago.
Yes. So I just wanted to read that out.
That's what I'm saying is like we've lived in this environment where I remember really I was in San Francisco performing, and I was in a tchotchke shop, a souvenir shop, and they had George, Bush is Hitler, and they had a picture of Bush with a Hitler mustache on. And I was shocked. I didn't like Hitler or Bush. I don't like Hitler either.
I was going to say, I hope you don't like Hitler.
I didn't like Bush. I didn't agree with his policies. I didn't agree with, his views on many, many things. But I didn't consider him comparable to Hitler. And
there were similarities, but not enough to call him like a disciple of Hitler. Trump is a disciple of Hitler.
I don't think
we could really light the podcast on fire and list off great things that Hitler actually did to you.
Well, we'll do that. All right, go ahead. Do that, because I'll go back to the comparisons then, specifically with this baby bullshit. But go ahead.
He was a vegetarian, a teetotaler,
a meth addict.
Personal little things. I'm talking he helped create the first affordable vehicle that anyone could afford.
Volkswagen Bug.
Volkswagen.
And, it wasn't necessarily the Bug, but it was Volkswagen. That was not one of them. But beyond that, he also made it basically illegal to smoke because he wanted Germans to be healthier. He created
the
environmental laws. Created the Autobahn.
No, he did not. He did not. I have to push back on that. He did not actually create the Autobahn. We'll have to find a different segment of Hitler Apologia.
Well, didn't he make sure that it got built?
No. I mean, he presided over sections of it being built, but it was already a thing.
Okay. All right. I did not know that.
In the same way that Mussolini did not actually make the trains run on time, that is a falsehood.
But it's one that has been taught in schools, though. You know what I mean? That's where I got it. I got it, in high school, that he was responsible for the Autobahn. Anyway, irrelevant. Whoever, during his period of time, he did at least oversee some of that. And I think that's going to be a lot like any political leader. There's going to be some things.
Broken clock is right twice a day.
Exactly.
Right?
Every broken clock is right twice a day. But there's also the aspect of something getting started in a previous administration, but being finished by the new administration and them taking credit for it.
There were also technological advances in Germany. The economic recovery. If World War II had not happened, he would have gone down in history as the greatest leader of all time. That's a fact. But beyond all of that, I also have to.
There was that whole killing Jews thing that kind of brought his numbers down.
I've seen. I forget her name. I think it's like Sarah Payne or something like that. Not Sarah Palin. Sarah Payne. I could be wrong on that, but she's essentially like a historian. She does lectures. She's very centrist, liberal leaning, maybe a little, but she gives lectures about different historical realities, especially surrounding the World War era, World War II specifically. And her assessment of it is if if Hitler would have stopped at uniting the German-speaking territories, so Germany, Austria, German-speaking areas of Czechoslovakia, German-speaking areas of Switzerland, German-speaking areas of Belgium, so on and so forth. If he would have stopped there, he would have been lauded as a great leader in European history.
Yes.
But his ego got the best of him, just as Trump's ego is the only thing about him.
The last thing I wanted to point out with that time period in Germany, something that I am jealous about, as should be any American, is they had the best looking military.
Oh, they were well dressed. I mean,
look at those uniforms.
They had Hugo Boss going, baby.
Yes.
All right.
So thank you, Hugo Boss, apparently.
and Adidas.
And I guess Prada.
Yeah, Prada.
For the Italians.
All right. So getting back to this
fabulous.
Getting back to this comparison with the baby thing. And
come on, Hitler just wants peace. Peace. Peace.
A piece of Germany, a piece of this, a piece of that, a piece of Poland.
Cole, did you get that reference?
Nope.
It's
the producers.
The producers, which was originally.
Oh no. Yeah,
Springtime.
No, right.
Yeah, it was the producers, but it was originally titled "Springtime for Hitler."
Yes.
All right.
Mel Brooks, baby.
So you got to watch that one. You'd love it. You would fucking love that one.
Okay.
Mel Brooks.
I feel like
producers.
I need to do a deep dive on
it isn't
Mel
the
Brooks.
producers. That was To Be or Not to Be, isn't it?
No, pretty sure it was the producers.
I don't think Shakespeare knew about Hitler.
It was the producers because 99% sure it was the producers because the idea
it was To Be or Not to Be because Mel Brooks played Hitler in as he's an actor with a theater in Poland, and George, oh gosh, what's his name? George
Costanza.
No, he played Henry on Punky Brewster.
Oh God, I don't know.
Commandant Lassard in Police Academy.
Oh, okay, all right.
The old man. He was one of the actors on the stage dressed as a Nazi.
Yeah,
and that scene is from To Be or Not to Be, which is fantastic.
Yeah, you got to watch. You really need to do a deep dive into Mel Brooks movies, Colton.
Yeah.
All right.
I don't know why that reminded me of this, but I just have to point this out. I remember seeing a video, like a YouTube short from a German comedian, which seems a little oxymoronic.
I didn't know that they had comedians in Germany.
Yeah. It was a German comedian at some like upper class event of some kind in like the 70s or 80s. And he's standing at the podium and he says, hip, hip. And they say, hooray, hip, hip, hooray. And then he says, Sieg. And they all say Heil. And then he walks away from the podium like, you motherfuckers. Like,
that's funny. All right. So back to this baby thing real quick. And then we're going to probably put a pin in it. But so marriage loans Hitler gave out. The Nazi government provided interest-free loans for any newly married Aryan couples. A portion of the loan was forgiven for each child the couple had, typically 25% per child. So after 4 children, the loan would be completely canceled. Honor Cross of the German mother. Women were awarded medals for bearing multiple children, bronze for 4 to 5, silver for 6 to 7, gold for 8 or more. These awards, Jesus Christ, you had to have 8 fucking children to have a fucking gold
Johnny
medal.
Buchard, the comedian.
Would have been 9, but my uterus fell out.
Damn it, people. It's a vagina, not a clown car.
Oh, shit. These awards were given on Mother's Day and publicly honored maternity support and propaganda. The regime celebrated motherhood as a patriotic duty and pushed propaganda idealizing women's roles as mothers and homemakers. Women who fit the racial and ideological standards were encouraged to leave the workforce and focus on raising large families.
It's the trad wife thing. It's literally the trad wife.
It is.
Yeah.
There was a secretive and disturbing aspect, a state-supported program that provided care for pregnant women deemed radically valuable. It also encouraged anonymous births and adoptions by SS families, and in some cases, children were taken from occupied countries like Norway or Poland if they fit the Nazi racial ideal. All right, so now the point that I'm getting here with this is, A, kind of sounds like Handmaid's Tale in many ways. B, you're seeing like, we can do all the political shit, right? We can take all the Project 2025 stuff and draw a line from Project 2025 to Trump enacting it to a Hitler policy. This is different. This is
I mean, look, the thing is, look, if the government said there is going to be some kind of credit more substantial than $5,000, because that's not fucking shit, especially in this economy. If the government were to say there is some kind of incentive to have children, but it's not restricted to anyone, I wouldn't necessarily be opposed to it. But the problem is, Trump wants it to be American citizens only.
Yes.
He wants it to be American citizens only. He doesn't believe in the Dreamer program. He doesn't believe in, he doesn't believe, you can, in a derogatory sense, you can call them anchor babies, but at the same time, anyone born on American soil is an American citizen. Doesn't matter where they were from.
End of story.
Or where their parents were from.
Exactly.
So that's the issue, is Trump is saying this. First of all, he's offering a pittance in comparison to what it costs to have a child, let alone to raise a child, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then on top of that, he wants it to only be American citizens, and his definition of American citizens are white women.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
White women having white babies. So,
because as Chappelle says, I like white women with dirty feet. Barefoot and pregnant in the kitchen, baby. That's what they want. I hate to say it, but I do think that is the case in many, many ways. But how about this? How about you make healthcare available to women to have these babies, because you could spend upwards of $20,000 to $30,000 just to have a child. That's just the expense of the hospital. If you don't have
$20,000 to $30,000 is cheaper or more expensive than just a random woman.
Yeah, but my point being, if we had healthcare available to every woman, if we had childcare available to every woman, whether affordable or free, if every woman had,
how about just to everyone?
Yeah, well, I agree with that, but I'm just saying on this particular issue.
If it is available to anyone, then someone who might not be white could get hold.
That's the problem.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. How about giving women back autonomy over their bodies? How about making sure that women have equal rights? How about making sure that they're making the same amount for the same job as a man?
Yeah.
How about we actually take care of our women so that they can have children and don't have to make the choice between work or having a family? That's what needs to be fucking done. They don't want that. They don't want that. But that's what needs to be done. If you're honestly worried about population decline, and I'm going to wrap it up right here. We're going to put a pin in it right fucking now.
I have one thing to add real quick as far as population decline goes. I think that this comes from a fear of falling into the same thing that South Korea is dealing with right now, which I don't know if either of you have seen this. Replacement birth rate is somewhere in a little over 2%, two children per two.
The break even is 2.4%. We're at 1.9% right now, which means we need half a baby.
But in South Korea, I don't know the numbers for America necessarily.
I just gave them to you. I literally just gave them to you.
Maybe 1.9.
No, I heard this just today. It's 1.9 and 2.4 is the break even. Anything above 2.4 gets us in the positive.
Two things with that. One, South Korea used to have somewhere in the neighborhood of like 4 children per couple, right? 6 was not uncommon, but typically it was like 4. They have dipped below 2%. And because of that, South Korea is considered like a dying population. They have more elderly than they have young, right?
Right. Yep. Same with Japan.
Colleges, schools, so on and so forth are losing enrollment and therefore are going bankrupt and closing. The U.S. may be on that path, but the problem with us comparing ourselves to South Korea in that respect is that we have this really cool thing where you can immigrate to the U.S. and have a child in the U.S., and that child is an American citizen. South Korea does not have that.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
right?
Asterisk, they did just deport a 2-year-old that was born in Louisiana.
Yeah. No trial. No, nothing.
Ridiculous. My point being...
Well, that baby just couldn't fucking afford a lawyer.
Yeah, they're having kids represent themselves in court because Trump cut the fund for children to have legal representation.
Yeah.
But my point being, in America, we have this really cool thing, or we did have this really cool thing, where if you were born in the U.S., you were an American citizen, regardless of where your parents were from. Regardless of their legal status, if you were born in the U.S., you are an American citizen. With that going away, that only further threatens the replacement rate of the United States.
And that gets to my point, is that no matter how much Elon screams at the top of his lungs and jumps up for joy, showing his little pink belly,
doing the X pose,
he's not going to get more people to have more children. Trump's not going to do it with this $5,000 plan. Those who do have a child have to understand that $5,000 is not shit, first off. Secondly,
that doesn't even cover that a fraction of the bill to have a child, let alone
for most copays. For most copays, it won't cover the copay on having that child if there's a problem pregnancy. Okay? Yep. If you want people to have more children, and you honestly want that, how about we do this? How about we actually tax the rich, bring down the deficit, create a circumstance where big business pays its fair share of taxes.
Well,
hold on.
A lot of that, Trump has already informed people that taxing more on millionaires won't fix anything.
No, he thinks that it'll make them move away.
Correct.
But that's not the reality. Even Steve Bannon calls bullshit on that, okay?
We're running out of bacon. I bet Elon would sizzle.
But what we need to do is we need to create an environment where houses are affordable. Okay, so like in the 50s, the baby boom, you could be a single income family, and that income could be you as the man of the house was a teacher at the local elementary school, not the principal.
You could pay for your house in 5 to 10 years.
You could afford your house. You could afford to have upwards of 4 kids. You'd have 1, if you did really well, 2 cars in the driveway, but mostly 1. And you could afford to take your family on a vacation at least once a year. At least once a year for 2 weeks. That doesn't exist anymore.
One car. Your wife doesn't need to go anywhere.
Yeah, I mean, but because she's
barefoot pregnant.
Yeah, exactly. But who's going to go get the groceries while you're at work? Who's going to take the kids to their activities when you're at work? You know what I mean? Like all those things that you miss out if you're a single family household and it's just the man working or just the woman. You have to have 2 cars because somebody who's staying home raising the children needs to actually make sure that the children can do the activities that need to be done for a healthy childhood. The problem with this country is we've gotten to the point where we've destroyed the unions, which in the 50s, during the baby boom, the unions were strong.
30% or more.
30% or more. We've gotten rid of the unions. Republicans made sure of that. We've gotten rid of affordable housing. Republicans made sure of that. We've gotten rid of any benefits. Republicans made sure of that. Women don't make as much as men. Republicans have made sure of that. We literally all the things that you need in order to have a larger population and not have your fucking country collapse under the weight of its elderly, the Republicans have caused. And with that, that's another Elsie's motherfucking little pickles.
Ladies, you want to make change? Stop fucking your men.
Yeah.
Go make a baby. Go fuck a stranger.